Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode, a very special episode of the HaskinCast Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, and I am here with the lovely Jade Holland, all the way in Australia. Of course, with Zoom, we could be in the same room. You know, it's great. Let's bring around Jade. Jade, how are you?
Hey, Scott. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. It looks like a bright, sunny, what is it, afternoon, evening? Morning.
It's morning. Yeah.
Now, you said
it's a beautiful day here.
Good, because you guys have had a lot of rain and flooding, and it's been a little crazy over there.
It has. We have been lucky here. We didn't get the absolutely devastating flooding that the rest of Southeast Queensland and even including Australia, so down to New South Wales, have got. But they have predicted, so we've had 3 days of sunshine, and now they've predicted that the rain and the thunderstorms are going to start again. So I woke up to a thunderstorm this morning. So
I miss those days
so
much. I grew up in Michigan, so we had thunderstorms a lot this time of year. And, living in the desert now, we get maybe 1 or 2 a year that are worth it. So I definitely am kind of jealous of that. But that really, I want to set the stage before we talk about your new single, because here in the States, it is still wintertime. We're about to start entering into spring. What is the reality of the weather in Australia right now?
So even though we do have thunderstorms today, it is 30 degrees, heading into 32 today, which is, I can't remember Fahrenheit, but I know it's hot. That's getting on the hot end of summertime for you guys. And it's just incredibly humid. So we're just kind of coming out of our summer, although with these thunderstorms and things like that, it just brings the humidity and the heat with it. So in a couple of months, we'll be heading into our winter time.
Okay, that's what I thought. And the reason that I asked that question is because your new song, Summertime, Sunshine and You, we're in the winter. So thinking in terms of, we're like, I can't wait to go to the beach. I can't wait until we can go play outside or whatever. But you guys are in that season. So you're in that zone. It must just be a wonderful feeling to be able to write and go into a studio and work with musicians after the pandemic. How does it feel just to be able to get together and work with people again?
Well, Scott, I wasn't able to for this single. I know it's crazy. I still had to do everything by Zoom. The only thing I did get to do in the studio, which I absolutely love, was the vocals. So I still, I have a producer in Nashville named David Mescon, and so AKA Messi. And so he basically produced it from Nashville, sent me over the tracks, and I sent back my, bits and pieces that I loved and didn't love. And we got the track finished, and then I jumped into the studio with a friend of mine, George, here in Brisbane. And he basically, we stood there and did all the vocals and did all the backing and everything like that. And it's a really special thing now to be able to go into a studio, because I think so many people have become accustomed to doing it via online, sure, which is a different vibe altogether. And I feel when you do it online, you almost have to work harder because you're working to create that vibe that you're trying to get through, an internet connection. Well, it's very different.
I've always said, even in business, if you deal mostly over the internet, email or text or phone or whatever, there's something about meeting somebody in person at least once, having that energetic connection, being in the same proximity. And certainly with creating, it's a whole different world to not have that room energy together, that collective, I have to say the song came out amazingly well, considering that it has such a warm feeling to it. And it's one that it just kind of feels comforting, in a way that like, it makes me really long for my day at the beach.
That's exactly the vibe we were going for. So I wrote this with Messi and a good friend of mine, Bruce. And so we, again, via Zoom, and we wrote it probably the second month of the pandemic. So we, it was a strange vibe because for the first time ever in the history of mankind, we were all experiencing the exact same thing at the exact same time and day, so while we were all in lockdown at that point in time. And so, Messi and Bruce just said, oh, well, we're free, let's hop on a Zoom. It's 9 p.m. at night for me. And I was sitting there having a wine, and I think they were having a coffee. And at the time as well, I'm not afraid to talk about my dating life, Scott, because it's been a big factor in my music for quite some time. But I was single for 5 years, and about 2 weeks before I wrote this song, I met my now fiance.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes. And I never believed in a Tinder love story. And here I am living proof that it's a thing. But it was a crazy thing, because I think at the time that we were writing this, I was just trying to manifest everything I wanted, you know, and everything I was feeling and what I wanted coming out of the pandemic. And in my brain, I was still thinking, we're in our second month of lockdown. We'll be out of this soon. We'll be back on the beach in no time. You know, I'll be able to date because we were in lockdown. So my partner and I had to be, you know, we kind of met online, and we had to be pen pals for 3 months until we could get out of lockdown. Mm-hmm. And I'm incredibly grateful for those 3 months of getting to know somebody really, really well. You know, yes, it's through text messaging and things like that, but it was almost like sending letters. We essentially were sending blurbs that were so big, and just getting to know each other really well. And I think with writing this song, I kind of put it out to the universe of what I was looking for. I wanted to go to the beach. I wanted to have a beer in my hand and the love of my life in the other hand, and just for the sun to be kissing my skin, and just for us to be getting out of this craziness. It finally happened, I guess, 2 years later.
Well, better late than never, you know.
Well, that's exactly right.
I think there's something that you touched on that I do find really interesting, because you're getting to know somebody in a completely different way than what we're accustomed to. So you're getting a side of them that you're really kind of advancing your connection, I think, a few years ahead, being able to get comfortable with how they think and how they feel. Because when you're together, I think you're a lot more on guard in the beginning. But if you're just messaging, I think we tend to maybe be a little bit more honest than we would, you know, sitting straight at the restaurant and all that, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We found that immediately, because we both had gone through, you know, like I said, I was single for 5 years. Now, I kissed a couple of toads in that time. Okay.
Sure.
You know, it was kind of like, I was getting to a point where, and it sounds really horrible to think about. It makes me kind of sad to think that I was in this frame of mind, but I almost felt like maybe I was unlovable. You know, I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, you know, and I'd have all my friends and family saying, there's nothing wrong with you. You just haven't found that person to get that connection with, you know, yet. Maybe you, like, I knew he was lost in the mail. I just, you know, he hadn't found his way to me yet. Sure. And so I, you know, I think when we met and we started talking, you're exactly 100% right. We did let down our walls a little bit, because we didn't have to put on a front face to face, where we didn't have to be, you know, big and strong and tough. And I didn't have to have my walls up going, you know, is this person going to hurt me? We were just talking, you know, it was very simple.
I've always found that interesting about dating too, is that people, you know, you meet somebody and for whatever reason, you have enough of a connection to say, let's get together for coffee or dinner or something, right? And then you both are trying to be these perfect people to impress the other person. Just be who you are. If they're, you know, if they're going to like you, they're going to like you for who you are. I'm not saying that you leave all the cards on the table, you know, but I mean, you could be a little bit more, you know, if you slouch a little, you slouch a little. You know,
that's exactly right. You know, and the other crazy thing is too, when we were able to actually go on a date, we did it at the end of lockdown. So we very sneakily snuck out of lockdown like a week before it was going to end. Mm-hmm. And we met on the beach. And I think because we had known so much about each other by that point, you know, after 3 months of messaging and FaceTiming and talking on the phone and things like that, we both knew that this was serious. And the beautiful thing was, when we arrived, we had kind of no expectations, because we had already had this connection. We were really comfortable with each other. So we didn't get there. We weren't nervous as such. We were just kind of like old friends. And it was really special. And it was, you know, again, summertime, sunshine and you. It was summer. We went down to the beach, we had a beer, and we were kind of sitting behind a tree so we didn't get in trouble for being out of lockdown and, you know, a week early, and doing the very, very wrong thing that we weren't supposed to do. If the authorities are listening in Australia, I deny it.
She's saying that for the sake of the popularity of the song is what the story is. Yeah.
That's exactly it. And, you know, it was really great to, you know, I held on to this song for a few years since then, because I just didn't feel that the timing was right. And not that I wanted to release it at the end of COVID, but I almost did, because it just didn't feel right to me in the last 2 years. After we wrote it, I could not find the right time to release it. It was something that was just kind of hanging over my head. And every time I revisited it, and I knew I was going to release it, but I just needed that timing to be spot on. And then my now fiance, he proposed to me in November last year. And it was, I don't know what it was, but I was like, this is my time. We are releasing this song. Let's get together, everybody. All the team got together and we were like, right, here we go.
Well, and I always say, trust your intuition. If something inside you is saying this is the right thing to do, follow that. And I'm really glad that you did, because here's something that's really tricky about a song like this. And granted, I mean, this is the first time we've experienced a pandemic, but do you release it in the middle and give people that anticipation for when it's over and something to look forward to? Or do you not do that because it could make people feel like, oh God, I can't go to the beach? And, there's a real balance there.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. And it's interesting you say that. So the last single I released was called Fight For It. Now, I wrote that for mental health, and I did release it about 5-6 months ago now. And it did really, really well. And I adore the song. And it was the way of putting mental health in the spotlight, but in a positive way, and letting people know that we hear you, and you're 100% on the money, because I got some conflicting reports from it, from people going, oh my gosh, I love this song. It's inspired me. Thank you so much for writing it and putting it out. And then I had some people going, I'm in the middle of all this crap, man. How do I get out of it? And it was, but it did bring it to light a little bit more, because mental health is a huge thing that we did need to talk about. But you're right in saying that, because I didn't want to release it in the middle of the pandemic and I was longing for leaving my house, and I know what that felt like for me, let alone me putting it out there to the world and hoping people loved it and having people go, what the hell? We're not anywhere near the release time yet,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for pouring salt in the wound while you were at it.
Yeah. That's exactly it.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, just upon the first listen, when Kat sent me over the link, within 10 seconds, I was like, I'm going to love this song. It drew me in from the first opening notes, the tonality of the song. It just literally feels like the sun is shining through the window right on me while I'm listening. And I absolutely love that. I'm so much about the mood more than anything else in a song, more than the technicality or any of that. But I do have to say, the bass drum sound you got is absolutely perfect. I love it. I'm a drummer and I'm really picky about bass drum sounds, and it's spot on for what it should be for this kind of song. Do you consider this country or pop? Because there's kind of a fine line between those two styles these days.
There is. So that drummer, he's actually in Nashville. His name is Isaac Senti, and he is amazing. He's played on probably about 5 or 6 of my tracks now. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the thunder you can hear in the background. I'm not sure if you can hear that. I think we're about to get a big storm. You just watch the light show.
Right. Nice.
Yeah. So that song, it's like I had to have that vibe. If we didn't have that vibe there, and you're right, with the drum sounds and everything like that, it's a really specific thing that we had to, I guess, kind of hone in on. And you're right, there is a fine line between being a crossover, I guess, into the pop world and still being country. So I think we kind of nailed it on being the cusp, and I'm okay with that. Like, I still want to be known as a country artist, but I do love when people bring other genres into country music, because realistically, before they started doing that, I think country was maybe a bit of a dying art, specifically here in Australia. I'm unsure about the American country scene. I know it's huge. I've been to Nashville a million times, but here in Australia, the country scene was, the minute you said country music, people thought you were singing hillbilly picking. You've got 45 banjos in there and a mandolin, and a banjo and everything like that. And everyone just sort of was, yeehaws and cowboys. And that's not the soul of country music these days. I mean, it may have been back in the day, but not anymore. We sing about a lot of real things, And so I feel like we really nailed the edge of it, and I love the pop factor in it because it brings over some new fans into the country world that would probably have balked at it before and would have gone, oh, country music, what is that?
Yeah, that's why I really hate labels, because they do pigeonhole people. And when I've played in country bands that played 50s and 60s country music, and you're just going, why am I in this band? I don't even like music anymore. But the stuff now, it's much more upbeat, and they sing about a lot of positive things. They sing about happy love and not I lost my woman kind of stuff. I mean, it really has changed.
Yeah.
So you're right. That style of country was very much a dying art, and I'm very glad that we have more what you're doing now. Now, I detected in the song, I thought I heard a mandolin. I heard something that was a little bit higher pitched picking instrument. Was that a mandolin?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we've only got little sporadic bits of it throughout. Yeah. And it was just because, specifically here as well in Australian country radio, it is very much, they're very much inspired by Nashville. However, they're still very, very picky here on what they will play on commercial country radio and things like that. So I had to tread a fine line of, is that too much or is that not enough?
Right.
It's a hard one to pick, especially when your producer is in Nashville. And, I love the American country music vibe. I really do. I think it's broadened our scope of what we were doing. We used to be so pigeonholed, and now it's like, the world is your oyster. Do what you want with your music. If it's your sound, it's your sound. So yeah, it's a hard one. It's like a balancing tightrope. You're kind of just walking along, hoping that it doesn't fall off one side or the other.
Right. No, that's very true. And I think you're on that line though, where it'd be enjoyed by people who enjoy both. I would say even people that like rock or light rock, I think that this song would fit in with those folks very well too. It's just that it has a little bit of that, just enough of a country feel to notice that it's country, but that's not dominating the song at all. And I love the mandolin because it just adds a little touch of something that makes you go, wait a minute, what's that I'm hearing? Because it's not prominent.
100%.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
It's a nice
and I did
place.
Actually, I initially, when we were listening to it, because I'm a big fan of Gavin DeGraw, and I know obviously he's not country, but he's done a little bit with some country music artists in Nashville and things like that. But I'm a big fan of his. And initially I was like, hey, do we need keys in this? Like, should we have a big piano vibe in it? And when Messi sent me the initial guitar riff, I went, oh no, we don't need piano. We need that guitar. That's the sound. It's that initial, I love an intro. When you hear the intro to Brown Eyed Girl, you know what's about to go down, or if you hear the Nutbush or something like that, you just go, okay, stop what you're doing.
Right.
Things like that. So I love a good guitar riff that you hear it and you just go, bam, I know what the song that is. And so that's when Messi sent that to me, I was like, that is the vibe. That's a vibe in itself.
And honestly, I really would like to think, because obviously we're somewhat steered by the title. Immediately we're thinking beach balls, volleyball, summer sun, that kind of thing. But I would like to think that even if somebody had just played the song for me and not said a word about it, I would have gotten that exact same vibe, because it just dials it in so quickly,
Yeah, it absolutely does. It's I think he really nailed it when we were talking about how we wanted it to sound, and you do. I wanted it to be beach vibes, and the concept that we were kind of running with is summertime 365, because here in Australia we are in Queensland specifically, we're lucky enough to live summertime pretty much all year round. It does get a little cold during winter, but that's for a week, and we're quite lucky to be able to live summertime 365. And I realized as well, like by releasing it at the end of our summer, it's going to head into your summer. And I thought, well, we can celebrate summertime 365. And even if it's winter or it's snowing wherever somebody is, show me how you celebrate summer.
Yeah, exactly. The only I do have one problem with the song. I don't want it to end. It's one of those songs that there's a thing about certain songs I like to call party songs. And when the songs fade out, I want to follow it. some songs, when they fade out, you're like, okay, that's good. I enjoyed the song. What's next? But there's other songs that you just don't want it to end. You just want to follow that fade into oblivion. And this is one of those songs for me. Like, I really just wanted to keep going. And that's a rare thing for me.
That's awesome. I'm so glad that you vibe that. I do try to, when I'm writing, I mean, everything's from the heart. But I'm not a producer, I do hear things that I can hear producers hear, even though, what they're listening to is just an acoustic track and a voice. But when I heard that, I could hear like being on a big stage at a festival and just going around that guitar, the chord progression at the end, and having a guitar just, absolutely hammering out some kind of summery vibe thing. Like Messy's really great at that. And he's got that tonality that makes it, and I was just hearing that as we were writing it. And I was like, oh, this is a vibe, you want to be, you want to stand there with your beach ball, with the sand between your toes, and you've got a beer in the other hand, and just a whole bunch of people loving life.
I could see this being a song on stage that you extend out for a couple of more minutes and just do some solos and stuff like that. I think this could really be one of those songs, because the crowd obviously is going to love it, and there's no doubt about that. So I definitely see that potential. Now the album is not coming out until November. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so this will be on that album. And then you've done a video. I've got the link in the show notes for the video. This is so well produced. How did all this happen?
This was an accident. So I'm hilariously like unlucky, but I still lucky. So I drove up to Townsville, which is about 14 hours from where I live now. Queensland's a huge state. Yeah. It's unlike America, where you can drive 3 hours and go to the next state. It's a state that's 14 hours and I'm not even at the top of the state yet.
Wow.
I think to get to the top of the state, it's at least 24 hours or something like that drive. So I drove 14 hours to Townsville, my hometown, and my film crew was there, and all the actors and everything. We had this big plan, kind of like what we did for the music video, but it was meant to be on an island. It's called Magnetic Island, and it's a beautiful part of the world. If you ever get the chance to come over, Scott, come and visit Magnetic Island. I will take you. It is glorious.
I'm not going to make you drive that far.
No, I love it. And you get to see so many things along the way. That's the beautiful thing about country music in Australia is, I know in America they have the flyover states, so they call it, but we drive through them.
Sure, yeah.
So we were meant to be filming on Magnetic Island, and just like it is right here, thunder, storming and everything right now, it was absolutely bucketing down rain, cats and dogs on Magnetic Island the day we were meant to film. And I was like, what are we going to do? And I was talking with my producer, and I felt really unlucky. I was like, we can't do this another day. Everyone is booked out. The other day is coming up. So today is the day we have to produce a music video. And I said, okay, we can't sing Summertime Sunshine and You in the pouring down rain, but we can do it in front of a green screen and make something else of it. And Maddie Voynia, my music video director, he just said, I've got an idea. And he contacted a lady by the name of Tara Lee, and she does all the illustrations and animation that you see in the music video. And I had never worked with a green screen like that before for a music video. It was kind of very unrehearsed, very sporadic. Do you feel it? Do it. Okay. And she sent me back some of these, in the things, illustrations that she was envisaging. And I went, holy moly, that's what we need. The coloring and the sky and the whole vibe that she put together for this. I was just blown away. It literally came out better than I thought the Magnetic Island one was going to come out. So I'm super stoked.
Sometimes magic just happens. You can plan things to the T, have one little hiccup that just throws everything out of whack, and then come up with something that's, I love when things like that, just because they're spontaneous. I think they tend to turn out better because it's not, here's what we rehearsed, let's go out and do that. It's here's what we felt in the moment. It's very natural. Just like when you're writing a song, when you sit there and go, well, maybe I shouldn't say this, or I shouldn't do that. That's when you start to ruin it, right? When it's when you're just playing it as natural, it's the best. I love that. I think you could have pulled off doing it in the rain, but that would have had to have been more of a parody. I don't care if it's raining, it's sunshine. kind of thing.
I did think about it. Don't you worry. I did think about it. It was just that we couldn't get enough of the wet weather gear for the crew and everything at such short notice. And I mean, I didn't mind standing in the rain, we could have even had the mascara running down my face and I'm singing Summertime Sunshine and You.
Now, I'm sure that you're itching to get out and showcase this song to the world. Now, I know that some bands are starting to cross borders and play. I know music is really big in Europe. There's some stuff going on here in the States. What's happening in Australia right now?
Yeah, look, we a lot of people are still touring within their state. Like I mentioned, the states are huge here, so you can tour pretty much for a year round in a state and not have to leave. We do want to head down south to New South Wales and to Victoria and things like that. But right now, the COVID situation has eased up a lot, so we can go, but now we've got flooding. So all the roads are closed, and half of southeast, Queensland and Australia is kind of underwater at the moment. So at this point, we're going to stick around Queensland and tour the Queensland and all the border when it all opens up after all the flooding, and go and visit all the towns that have been, devastated by the floods. And I know we are going to do a flood relief show as well, and try and make some dollars for those, the flood victims there. And then hopefully I would love to get back over to Nashville. I want to get over to America. I did a huge trip in 2019 with my best friend. We traveled, I think it was 12,000 miles across America. We did this. We went concert hopping in a Silverado, and we did a zigzag all the way across up to Denver, and and then flew out to the Calgary Stampede from Denver. And it was just magic. I just miss traveling, and I want to bring my music back over there because it's been so long since we've been able to do that.
Well, and that's the thing too, is, you can have the jams and things over Zoom, but musicians, if you're a performing musician, you got to perform. You got to be in front of a crowd. You've got to see and feel people enjoying what you're creating. And there's really nothing in the world that comes even close to that.
Not at all. Maybe jumping off a bridge or something, like into the water. I'm not sure, but
I'd rather
it's
do a
2-second high.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we would love to have you here in Vegas. So if you end up playing here or in the area, let me know for sure. I'd love to come and see you. I'm excited for this song to get out there. Just looking at the number of hits and things, it looks like it's getting a pretty good response, which it should. It's a really good song, and I'm really glad that you were able to get it out there. With all the situations and everything, it's kind of anything that comes out in quality these days is kind of magical right now. And I think you really got something there.
It's such a different vibe too, isn't it? Releasing music these days. Now you've got TikTok, and all these very, very quick ways to start them, and I've been working my butt off over here, for a long time. And so it's really nice to hear that. So I really appreciate it because, we kind of, I guess myself as an artist, I put my heart and soul on the line, and I put it on a silver platter, and then I release music and I say, do you love it or do you hate it?
Right. And how much of a path do you wear in the carpet, pacing back and forth, waiting for that to come in?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, I remember the very first film I ever scored. I sent, I was writing a piece and sending them to the director one at a time. And every one of them I would send him like, he's going to hate it. And I would just like walk around the room and then walk around outside and walk back around the room again and just wait and go, I don't want to hear it. And then I'd get the notification that I got an email. And I'm like, I don't want to read this. It's going to be awful.
Yeah,
and it wouldn't be, but you do have that. I'm putting something out into the world, and now it's up to them to judge, and you hope that they get what you put into it.
Yeah.
I don't know how they couldn't with a song like this. I mean, it's just so dialed in, but there's always that element of what if.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And as well, it's like, it's an interesting thing when you release music because it's open to interpretation. Mm-hmm. So what I, love and am vibing for summertime, like someone could easily come back and go, it's winter over here,
right.
It's like, you just hope that, at least they hear it and go, oh, that's a cool song, awesome, like.
Yeah.
even if you don't love it.
But there's so many factors of whether somebody's going to like a song when they hear it. It's the mood that they're in, the day that they've had, what's going on in their life at that time, and what's on their mind. And your song could be something that they would love. And if they hear it in the wrong moments, they won't. And that's the hardest thing, because there's nothing you could do about that, except for hoping that maybe while they're listening to the song, that mood and the vibe brings them out of whatever they're going through or they're in, and kind of, wraps itself around them and makes them feel good again. I think this is a song that can do that. But yeah, it's so difficult just waiting and waiting after all the work you put into it. And, you figure how many months this song took to get completed. And then you're like, okay, and
please.
So how far along is the album at this point?
So we are just finishing writing it, because I did write it last year and I was pretty happy with it, but I wasn't in love. So I was like, no, I want to go back, rethink it. We have started working on 2 songs, which I'm really excited about, to come out as the next couple of singles. And they will be on the album as well. And so I just basically want to make sure that I've got, because for me, an album it's got to tell a story, and I've always listened, when I listen to somebody else's album, and you from start to finish, it tells a story of like a it's almost like a circle. It just comes back round again, and I want it to say, to have that vibe. So I'm reworking it, because I loved it, but I wasn't in love with it. It needed some work. So I'm a perfectionist.
I love
I have to have it right.
Well, there's that, but there's also, it has to have the right feeling. If music doesn't have the feeling from the artist, then it's probably not going to connect as well with an audience anyway. So I'm glad that you're saying, all right, let's take a step back. Let's put what it needs to be back into it and make it happen. I really like that, because I think a lot of artists don't do that. I think they get pressured by deadlines and just I just want to be done with it and get out there and tour, that they sometimes kind of let that go. So I really like the fact that you're putting it through what it needs to go through.
Yeah. I didn't want to overthink it, but I was missing something. And if it's missing something for me, it's not right. And even though I love my parents, they're not musical to save their life at all. Like the mum can't sing for at all. Like we even tell her not to do karaoke. It's bad. I love her, but it's bad. Yeah.
That's a statement.
And so mum and dad listened to it and they were like, this is great. I love this. And I was like, no, it's missing this. And then when I pointed out, they go, okay, yep, we can hear that. So I think they've been with me over enough years now to be able to hear what I'm hearing and go, I see what you mean. Good.
Well, I'm sure it's going to be fantastic when it's all ready to go. And I wish you the greatest success with it and the single. And I'm really glad that we got a chance to talk. It's a pleasure to meet you. And I'm just so excited to see you doing what you love to do.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you so much for having me. We'll have to do it again really soon when we get the next single or the album.
Definitely. Let's do it. And I can honestly say, I think you're going to reach a lot of people with this music. I think this is exactly the kind of music that we need right now, as things are starting to open up and people can kind of breathe a little bit and hope that we're at the tail end of this ridiculousness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you take care, keep at it, and keep in touch.
Thanks, Scott. Cheers.
Cheers.